Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. Very excited about this one, joined by my man, Mr. Liam Murphy. Murph, I know you've wanted to get this one in the can for a very, very long time. We're very excited about our conversation. Who do we chat with today?
Super stoked. It's a man that you might recognise from Nova 100, currently breakfast show. Prior to that, Nova in Adelaide and Triple J breakfast show, Mr. Liam Stapleton.
Just a legend, incredibly well spoken, so self-aware, and just an awesome conversation. So glad that everybody gets the opportunity to listen to this one. Glad that we got to have a chat with him. Please enjoy our chat with Liam Stapleton, Men of Words podcast, where little conversations can make the biggest differences. This is the Men of Words podcast, where the little conversations can make the biggest differences.
I want to say hello to you first because I
Hello.
owe you so many love and thank yous.
Yep.
I'm
counting.
for everything
I'm
you're
gonna
doing this
cash them
week
all
for
in
me.
as well.
And I, just want to firstly say hello and I love you and thank you for all your help this week.
Thank you for saying that, mate. I appreciate it. And yeah, big week. Showtime tomorrow. So
Game time.
We'll see if you're thanking me in another 24 hours.
Still be
Hopefully it
thanking
all goes to plan. But no, of course, brother, you know that. I no hesitation. Drop it all for you. And I love you too. So yeah. Well, thanks, mate. You didn't need to drop that straight at the start.
I did. Yeah,
A little
bit of
sweetheart.
love. It's good.
Warm me up. Yeah, beautiful.
Marf, this is a conversation that I have been really excited to have and really hopeful to have for a long time. And it's
I know.
glad we're on couches, and because if I was jumping up and down on something hard, my butt would be sore, but I'm so excited. And we are joined by radio superstar. I'm saying superstar because I'm a big fan,
Yes.
Mr. Liam Stapleton.
Jeez, I don't know about superstar, but I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you, Murph. I tell you what as well, Men of Words podcast. It's a wonderful title, but like Muff and Murph, I mean, you're missing a trick there. If you ever wanted to move into commercial radio, I mean, it's got a ring to it.
Yeah,
it's got a ring
that's
to
it.
it, that's
Well,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, look, if you know a guy,
Yeah. Pays all right.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. We're roughly on the same trajectory because, I popped a kid not that long ago as well.
Yes,
so, yeah.
and you've got
yeah.
a beard. Like Ben. You're practically Ben.
That's it. We could be. Actually, this could be it.
Congratulations.
and we
by the way.
share a
Yeah.
name, so
Thanks,
we're
mate.
Liam.
Yeah,
so
well,
that,
we're both
that's
Liam.
half.
That's it. Yeah.
Done. Well, maybe we won't take over, but we'll coexist.
Hey, look, if we're on holidays or whatever, but people can't tell us apart still anyway. So I mean, I think you guys would blend in pretty easily. I think it'd be pretty seamless transition. I don't think there'd be too many heads turned. That's for sure.
100%. Yeah, that's it.
I've been working on my good mornings as well. Oh, maybe you need to work. If you're going to be Ben, you need to work on your
I'd
good
work on
morning,
my good
Melbourne.
morning.
Yeah, I don't really say. Yeah, I'm not the real good morning guy. Ben's the one sort of coming in and out of the song, so he's normally the one saying good morning.
And you're like, oh, not again.
Yeah. Well, when he was off, he had 2 weeks paternity leave, and I got to say it was a bit of a power trip. I didn't get to sit in his spot though because I still can't press the buttons, so I don't know how to do
Oh,
that.
is he buttons?
He's buttons.
Yeah,
just the
nice.
way he likes it. Just the way I like it
The
too. to be
stars are
fair.
aligning. The more you say is because I'm not touching anything recording. That's a you thing.
I mean,
So
look,
we're
we've
good.
outsourced at this point and are doing a far better job than I will ever do. But
Yeah, you're saying tech. I'm like, hang on. There's a very behind the scenes here. This is a very professional
Yeah.
operation. And when I came in, Muff, you were sitting there and you haven't moved. I'm like, he's not responsible for tech.
I really don't know. I really don't know in good conscience that I can take credit for the tech at this point. There's a lot of wires behind that.
There
camera.
There is. This is a professional operation. That's for sure.
Shout out Amy and Kane. Love you both.
We do. We love them.
That's
Hey,
it.
one thing that we love to do here to start a podcast is to throw a bit of an icebreaker question, a bit of a surprise question.
Yeah.
You might have seen we don't list what the question is because we want to keep you on your toes. And we've been kind of like back and forthing who gets to ask the questions, and sometimes we veto each other. And I sent you a text before. I don't know if you've even read it, of the question that I wanted to ask.
I think, my kind of day today was one of those days where I'd let a lot of text go through to the keeper. So,
Right.
yeah,
I'm taking
I'm
it then.
excited to see what happens.
And it's a recycled question, not from us, but from someone else. It was a cool question. It was something funny because it gives a little bit of an insight into the person behind the microphone, I think. And the question I wanted to put to you, Liam, and then to you, Muff, is it's midnight, 1 a.m. You wake up absolutely starving and you've got access to any and everything, what is the go-to food that you need to get up and eat at that time?
Yeah, look, I've never really been a midnight snacker myself, but I don't know. My mind went straight to cold cuts, like just
cut.
I watched Sopranos a few years ago.
I could have guessed Sopranos
you know
after
what I
Gabagool.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just I love when Tony's like really frustrated and he's like sweating profusely and he's just going through the paper and just trying to find some stray meat. So yeah, I think that'd be it for me. I'm getting married at the end of the year though, so I'm trying to not eat prosciutto at midnight. So, but yeah, that's
I don't
it
know.
for me.
I don't know if midnight
Cold
snack makes it into the wedge shred category.
No, that's for sure.
No, not even close. Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat. I'm not really like a midnight snacker. Like as soon as
Guys, you got to just cop the question.
yeah, but I just want to say, this is my soapbox because I want to say, as soon as I've brushed my teeth, gates closed, buddy.
Water?
Until the morning. Like
Yeah,
water,
for sure.
yes, but nothing else. Like my partner will have like tea after she brushes her teeth.
No, that's
Not happening. Can't eat after you brush your teeth.
Where
Not
are you?
happening.
Nah,
Yeah,
that's
not
not good.
not a fan of that.
Let's say
Okay,
you're
I'm a
allowed to
big
brush
fan
your
of-
teeth again afterwards. Then
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you that 1 minute 30 to brush
Alright.
your teeth after.
meat goreng.
Oh yeah, just we're not
Quick
hard to
cook.
please. We're not hard to
Exactly. Yeah,
please.
exactly. I'm not going for
Kettle's
courses.
going to wake people up.
I don't need
Not
a
worry
Michelin
about
star. No, this is my dream scenario, all
hungry.
right? This is my dream scenario. I'm not going to have nightmares because of the MSG. No one's going to wake up. I'm not going to ruin anybody else's sleep. Me goreng, little extra crispy shallot on top.
yeah,
'cause we
good call.
buy
Great
by
call.
the like cubic meter because we
Yeah,
love
yeah,
crispy
yeah.
shallot in our house. A little bit extra of that on top. Maybe a fried egg if I'm feeling exotic.
I've never actually done the egg on top. I'm too bad
Okay.
for that. I'm sort
Yeah,
of
it's a little bit longer.
kettle. Sometimes I don't even have time for all the different sauces. I just sort of rip it, and if two come out and I
Whatever
don't get the
comes
last one, whatever.
This
I don't
is
need
an
all three.
interesting. Do you? Okay, so you don't get the all three, but do you ever what's your process for me goreng? Because people have a process,
I
right?
don't know if I'm doing it right, but yeah, like I'll just put the boiling water on top of the dry noodles.
Yep.
Then I'll drain it. Then I'll put the stuff in. Is that wrong?
I don't know.
That's how I do it.
That's how you
Trying
do
to
it.
put the stuff in. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I put the stuff in like after it's been drained. But
Yeah,
it's still
exactly.
A bit, it's a bit moist. It's still
Yeah,
good.
I'm picking
that
up
how
what
you
you're putting
do
down. Yeah, 100%.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, go on.
I'm the outlier.
Gross.
Putting it in before?
No, I get the powdery stuff.
You
Yeah.
eat it
And
dry
the-
and put the powder in your eyes. So I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, I don't think
The chili
I don't
goes
think
in
anyone
way
does
better.
that.
That's
That's
Yeah.
not right. Oh, okay. No, I put the powder in with the soy sauce and whip it around, and then melt the oil. Put the oil in to make a little sauce,
Oh.
and then I do the dry noodle. Yeah, okay.
Gordon
I'm
Ramsay
clearly.
is-
Yeah,
No, I'm
no.
clearly
Seems
on
like
the
a
wrong
real
page.
process.
Going
to-
for a Michelin star with
So
this
my
one.
midnight snack is not me correct.
No, because it'd take you to 4 a.m.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like lightly roasting the soy on a separate burner.
You got to lightly
Two
roast the
burners
soy.
for me, guys.
Yeah, it's too much. It's just a kettle. That's the whole
That's
point.
terrible.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
okay.
All right,
it's-
Murph.
Noted.
What do you got? Midnight snack. I already know what
Ooh.
yours is, to be honest.
Are you going to say popcorn?
Yep.
Yeah,
It was popcorn.
Nice.
Was it popcorn?
Nah.
Ah.
No, but it can be. It was. I was tossing up a coin between that and a pink donut.
Oh yeah,
Not chocolate. Chocolate donuts suck.
Yeah, pink donuts. are
Pink
I like.
donut?
I like sprinkly ones.
Yeah, like
Bit of all the colours.
I see. Oh,
You know what I
I
mean?
like it. I'm with you.
Might hit a
Anything
nerve.
donut except for chocolate. Yeah.
Now, what can you infer from Liam's answer into the man?
You
You said
love
that
your
was a good-
sleep.
you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Sopranos.
no.
Yeah, I learned a lot from the Sopranos.
I'm
guys.
gonna die young from heart disease from eating too much cured
from
meat.
prosciutto
Yeah.
at 12 a.m.
But quick, like it's a quick feed. You don't have to do any prep. You can just go in,
Boom.
Yeah.
shove down as much as you want, and then get back to sleep. Which I think is probably fitting because working in breakfast radio, you would definitely not want to be awake at midnight. I'm gathering
No,
when you have to get up at what
certainly not.
3:30 ish.
Yeah. No, you're pretty much bang on.
Is that's like straight up start time?
Yeah, 3:50 for me. But it's fun. I love what I do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's a cool job to do. So I'm not complaining. But sometimes I do. For sure. For sure.
Everybody's allowed to complain. Doesn't matter how
Yeah,
good it is.
it's kind of that
like-
weird thing as well. It's kind of like the only job I've ever done, really. So it's sort of like I've always sort of been waking up at this time.
Yeah.
And, Belle, who's on our show as well, she was producing before. So, she was doing the same thing. And Ben, before radio, he was working at a dairy farm. So you've got to get up even earlier and work, longer hours. And it's messier work. So, yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of all fits.
Maybe that's a nice place again to take the conversation then and give a bit more of a background into the person that you are. And for those that maybe don't know who Liam Stapleton is,
Yeah.
a nice little insight into your world. So obviously a breakfast host radio.
Yep.
Breakfast radio host,
Yep.
I should say.
Still sort of works. Yeah.
Breakfast host
Whatever.
radio.
Throw
Yeah.
them all in there. Yeah.
Radio breakfast host. Oh, that works as well.
Yeah.
You've been doing it. You just said you've been doing it for work. Pretty much that is solely what you've been doing.
Pretty
so
much,
let's go the who of Liam Stapleton.
Yeah. Well, I'm an Adelaide boy living in Melbourne now, and I'm a passionate Premier League fan. When I was growing up, this sort of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the goalkeeper for Liverpool. Didn't quite make it. So I had to settle for radio. And that's
The logical leap.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
that's it. That's it. Yeah. And it's certainly always been a passion of mine. And I started out when I was sort of in my mid-teens, like 15 years old. I was doing community radio for fun, and I suppose one of the lucky ones who's been able to turn my passion into my career. So as I mentioned, sort of been doing that for the last 10 years now. So it's sort of taken me from Adelaide to Sydney for a few years, back to Adelaide, and now Melbourne, which I'm loving.
So good. Tell you what, if you're a big fan of goalies, we do know one. More specifically, Murph knows one quite well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you want
Name
me?
drop.
Tell him because I'm sorry.
I have a very, very talented brother-in-law who happens to sometimes dance with the Wiggles.
Redmayne.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
And-
So good. I love it.
He's-
He's an absolute
yeah.
legend.
He's
One of the
Such a
most
goat.
beautiful humans you'll ever, if you get the chance to meet him, or if you have, he's a super. I'm very
Also, obviously, such a stalwart for A-League, but then had his big moment on the national stage. And as we've learned, obviously recently with the Matildas, amazing. It's one of those sports that no one really cares about until the World Cups come around, and it's the best month to be a fan of the sport. 'Cause you're like, how good is this?
Everyone's
I'm
in.
loving it all year round.
Yeah.
But I remember. I mean, the Matildas hype is unmatched, but that. From obviously last year, the Socceroo stuff, after that Peru game, everyone had Redmayne fever for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
his
pretty cool.
real star moment, wasn't it?
Oh, massively. I think the man behind him in the work that he put in over, you said he was an A-League star. He's been playing professionally since he was 17 or something in his early to mid 30s now. And he's been grinding. It hasn't been an easy slog for him. We've had him on this and he spoke about, days where he wished that, he was playing at Western Sydney at the time, and he used to wish that a stray ball would hit him in the head so he could get knocked out and miss a game because he just couldn't
Didn't
cope
love it
with
anymore,
it. And the work that has gone in. He got traded to Sydney and got reconnected with some of his youth coaches, and he found the passion again and worked hard and got an opportunity and just bloody took it with both hands. And
That's so cool. And isn't it interesting? It's sort of, I suppose for him, it's sort of that long road, but you sort of assume, how cool, you get selected for the Socceroos and you're Mark Schwarzer or even Matt Ryan is, he's probably really held that spot. As the number
for
one
sure. Yeah.
keeper. But I mean, everyone's just going to remember Andrew Redmayne from that game, right?
Well, that's it.
That's sort of still.
It's the Aloisi moment, the Redmayne moment.
Literally.
And the
they all
Mackenzie
happen to
Arnold
be-
moment as well.
Yeah, they all have to be penalty shootouts.
That's
so
it.
It's sort of becoming our nation's thing
Yeah.
at the
Yeah, we're
moment,
going to be
it?
the specialist.
which I love.
And it's funny, you're you point to that, the month that the whole country jumps on board, which is awesome. And look, I'm definitely in that category,
Yeah.
and had so much fun during the
Well,
World
also,
Cup.
I'm I don't anyone who knocks bandwagon sports. I'm that's the whole point, right? You want people to enjoy.
Yeah.
Be oh, this is actually
exactly,
sick.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
I
That's,
think so
That's
as
what it's
well.
all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying about Redders, it's I guess it has that from the outside looking in, it can people call it like the overnight success or whatever. It's like, just it took one game and then all of a sudden Redders is thrust into the limelight and now he's this, like the most well-known goalie and like, Australia's sweetheart. And like there's almost no example of that in not just soccer, but in just anything in life that it wasn't, like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Anyone who's done anything for sure. And that's the thing. I certainly would not trade my life. Like a good friend of mine has played in overseas and played in the A-League, and it's like it's such a grind. Like he's been sort of plagued by injury a little bit and done ACL and that sort of. I never really thought, when you support a team, you're like, oh, that sucks. Like, that player's out.
You're frustrated.
Yeah, you're annoyed. But like, being like friends with someone who's like, sport is their job, and then you're like, oh my God, that's like, if I couldn't work for like 8 months or something, I would do like what I love, and then you have a whole different understanding. Hey, it's like
100%.
Yeah, being a professional athlete, like hard yards for sure. It's not as exciting as it looks, I don't reckon.
That's it. I guess like the highs and the lows are super high and super low.
I mean, you'd take it. Spoken like a real guy.
Absolutely.
Who couldn't make the A-League.
Yeah. I would 100% take it.
You'd trade it? Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah.
Sporting tragic.
I went down there. So you wanted to play professional football and then you went into radio.
Yeah.
I did what most other unsuccessful sporting people do and became a PE teacher.
Oh yeah, that's all right.
I could still be. I look like a hero to the kids I teach.
Just
because I can kick a ball 30 meters further than them.
Just absolutely bowling them out. Yeah.
Bouncers, got to teach them young. Yeah, if you don't dodge this, bad luck, mate.
Just don't argue out in the footy field, pushing kids into the ground.
It's scary because it's true.
Murph regales us with stories of winning basketball 35-1, i.e. 35 kids versus him on the one.
Oh, yeah, that's cold.
Just trying
Sometimes you just,
it's a bit of handle
good
practice.
It's good training, yeah.
I took on the entire year 3, yeah.
There is nothing better, though, than just launching like a basketball full court, one hand not looking, and it just sinks straight in, and you've got 25 kids just like,
legend status.
Are you sick? Do it again.
Young minds as well. They'll never forget that.
That's right.
Well, they better not.
You'll always be that teacher.
Let's get off me and back to you. So you mentioned
seriously talk about Andrew Redmayne all day.
Yeah, I know.
I'll have to introduce you. I'm sure he'd love to meet you as well.
Any chance to give Redders a bit of love. We love Redders.
And he's actually, I should say, he's nominated for Father of the Year.
Sports Dad of the
Year again. And geez, I hope he wins because watching him in action with Little Poppy and the newest member Banjo, he's an absolute superstar.
Absolute champion.
We're talking commercial radio start as a teen. I think you met Ben at some point in that position, and then
met him at community radio back in those days. So he was sort of still working on the dairy farm, and I was still at school. And we were just sort of doing like stand up around Adelaide, and knocking around sort of the same time. And I was doing stuff on the weekends, and he was doing stuff overnights. And we both just sort of filled in for a show one day, and then sort of went from there. The radio love affair started.
Yeah.
Prior to it's always been the two of you. Do you find it hard to talk about any work related or personal stuff without like separating yourself from Ben and Liam?
Yeah, I suppose by nature of it, you're sort of intertwined in that way. Just like, to bring it back to the sporting analogy, but I suppose if you play on a footy team and you win a premiership for Bulldogs or whatever it is, you're going to mention the Bulldogs a lot. So I suppose, and also, I suppose we both individually haven't done a hell of a lot professionally anyway outside of that relationship. So, a lot of it is intertwined. But I'd speak for myself, but I definitely wouldn't have it any other way. Like it's sort of it's sort of a blessing to be able to do all of this and rock up to work every day with your mates. It makes everything a lot easier.
Well, that's it. And even like, I guess, having somebody that is obviously going to know is going to be feeling and going through that same sort of like career trajectory as you, and as someone, like you said, who's such a good mate. Yeah, I used the example the other day. We did we did a podcast recording, and unfortunately Murph couldn't be there, and so I was like riding solo with this podcast chat, and it was a great conversation. And the fellas that we talked to were so lovely, and I ended up having such a good time. But I was like walking in with separation anxiety. I was stressing because I'm like, I'm so used to having you here to talk, like, and to bounce off, and to always like just you just feel more comfortable with that person that you do the thing with.
Absolutely.
And so that's like. Yeah, that was a bit of a learning experience for me, I'll say for sure. And I'm sure that's kind of like mirrors what you're saying.
Yeah, Muff and Murph, as I said, it's got a ring to it. Muff, just plain Muff, less so. You know, it's sort of
questionable.
Doesn't have the same rhyme.
Why am I listening to this?
It's raising more questions than answers, I'll say.
Well, I think for literally the first time in like basically a decade, I did radio without Ben recently. As I said, you know, he's just had a little son, Freddie, which is very exciting for him and his wife, Sam. And it was just Belle and I, and it was kind of daunting, but then it was also kind of nice knowing like, oh yeah, I think we the show certainly wasn't at full strength, but I think we did all right, Belle and I. But then to be fair, you know, we've also known each other for like 6 years and have been working together for a long time. So if it was someone that was just thrown in there, or I was doing it by myself, it would be an absolute nightmare, I think.
yeah, true. Someone gave you the 3, 2, 1 and then just
pretty much
sat down.
Yeah, I have never really had any interest in doing solo stuff on the radio. That's a tough gig when you don't have people to bounce off of.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, like pretty amazing how people can pull that together. Can you look back on that sort of like those teen years and the early 20s of when you were like when radio started to become what it's become? Can you kind of pinpoint what it was that you were drawn to and that like the thing that you really loved about it?
Yeah, I think I've always loved performing, I suppose, and like just like everyone does, you know what I mean? Just
100%.
mucking around.
Even the introverts love it. They just want to admit
that's it. Everyone loves a bit of attention. You know, mucking around with their mates, and I don't know. I suppose when I was growing up, it was always like doing voices and cracking gags and that sort of stuff. So at some point I was like, I want to do stand up. And stand up, we both did that early doors, and then sort of decided to give it away and like, hey, let's focus our attention on radio. Stand up's a rough slog. It's also that thing of you have an idea, you craft it, and then you've got to go and work on it, and it's sort of then you're doing the same thing all the time. Whereas what I loved about radio was it's like you have an idea or something happens in your life, you tell the story the next day, it's out there, it happened, it's done, you move on, and then you're just on to the next thing. Like there's not there's still like I suppose like a little bit of a craft to it, but like every morning I sort of get that I scratch that itch, I suppose, to
it's a little more like
do that for 3 hours and it's one of those rare industries where you can do that, and it's like it's sort of a career. So I never thought we'd be working in it for this long together. Like it's sort of still pinch ourselves.
I guess it kind of feels in that sense more like improv, versus like a stand up sort of comedy or something.
Well, that's and it's obviously a lot of people say that it's when people think, oh, how good would I be at stand up, and it's that thing of like, not everyone is as funny as they are with their mates. But I suppose radio is a lot closer to that, or like a podcast format. It's things happening in the moment, and you're just sort of in a flow state and just having fun with it, rather than having to craft like, okay, do I say this or how do I build this up, and does that need more? Does that need less? Is the crowd going to go with me on that one? There's way more of an art to it. Yeah. An art that I'm not particularly interested in, I must admit. Especially I don't get how people do both. Because as I said,
to like, because it's obviously such a separate skill set. Right?
And then to be out late at night, you're like, geez, you're really burning it from both ends, especially if you want to have a life and enjoy yourself in the meantime as well.
I think like I don't know about your community days, but for the majority, as a listener to you guys, it's always been in the morning. Yeah. And how do you find the balance? Like how do you, is it a learning curve, or are you still trying to find it?
Straight up learning curve. Not to toot my own horn, but I feel like I've like got the balance pretty nice this year. I feel like
that's good.
And maybe it's also just like getting older a little bit. You know what I mean? Like Ben's literally a dad now.
Yeah.
We're all growing up, like getting married, and you sort of like, hey, I want to have kids one day too myself. And but that's it, I suppose, because if you're doing this and you're 19 years old, of course, or I'm like literally 20 and moving to Sydney and like living there by myself and just you're getting offered to go to gigs and that sort of stuff. And you're just like, yeah. And you're out
Yeah, 100%.
enjoying yourself maybe more than you should be. And then, you don't really have that work-life balance. But now I've sort of definitely got it down to hey, there's no point doing your head in way past the time you should leave at work if you're like, just can't get an idea for tomorrow, or like what's going to be go live your life, and then something will probably come up naturally anyway that you can come in and have some fun with the next day. So obviously we still got to put the work in there to prep the show, but definitely prioritize getting to the gym and getting out there, walking the dog, and just enjoying my life, making sure I catch up with friends.
That's good though. Like that takes a certain level of confidence in yourself to know that like, okay, if this hasn't worked right now, I guess that's so true of the trajectory of daily breakfast radio show, is that like, you've got to be ready for the next day, the day before, like it's just go. So I guess that sounds, and from the outside, it kind of sounds like, you've built that confidence in your ability to be able to do that and kind of trust the process.
You got to trust the process for sure.
And the people and the team too.
Yeah, that's it. I just, it's good. I feel like I'm getting a little bit more out of my days at the moment, but I think, that's also just, it's all that boring stuff, right? Like it's like looking after yourself a bit, not caning it every weekend, like going to bed on time, like. Yeah, it's just the older you get, the more you like want to do that as well. Like, it's got to be a lot to get me out on a weeknight. So that here you go, guys. It's a big Wednesday for me. It's so true though. Like,
I love
sometimes
that.
you're like,
we're honoured. We're
can I
honoured.
be, asked to go to this event at this time or whatever. You're like, I'd probably rather just be in bed.
Yeah, exactly. Nah,
weekend, different story. Like, I like to enjoy myself in the weekend. That's for sure.
Is radio an easy job to do hungover? Breakfast radio?
It's been, I actually find I perform better when I'm like sometimes, because I think it's that thing of like that lack of sleep and you're like not feeling great. So you're trying to like overcorrect. Not so much the next day and then the day after and the day after. But it hasn't happened too much.
Good.
As of
Lucky.
late, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There was in the early years definitely a little bit more often, especially if you're like broadcasting from festivals and that sort of stuff. Well, you got to enjoy it.
For sure. I'm here.
Got to have the full Splendor experience.
That's it. Literally Splendor. Yeah, I did vomit in the news after one Splendor. But that was like hardcore. We were sort of all my like friends were there, so I was obviously trying to hang out with them. Yeah, and we were like trying to do the Triple J stuff and keep the show going. And then I think for a couple of years we were doing Rage as well. So we'd like sometimes like interview an artist, and then like literally do the same interview again, but just for the Rage TV format, and then try and see all the artists that you were keen to see. But this year was the first Splendor I didn't go to for 7-8 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. Big one.
Obviously a few COVID years it wasn't on.
Asterisks, but
So
I think maybe like a nice way to sort of jump into the Triple J years. I guess that for like Liam and myself, that was definitely, I guess, our introduction to Ben and Liam, and I mean different levels of fandom, I'll say, over the years, but my heart beats with the Triple J drum, as it always will, I think, for so many people. And it's been really interesting. Like, we've been super lucky to chat to so many artists that have obviously had their sort of their foray into the music industry through Triple J, and they've obviously do such a good job at groundbreaking all these incredible Australian artists. And what seems to be like the case with Triple J is that there's this almost this level of responsibility that people feel once they're like under the Triple J banner, because it is this just like culture. It's this, I don't really know like the best way to describe it. You've probably got a better way to describe it than I ever will, but it really just feels like this very like meaningful thing to so many people, and like such a just like really a part of the fabric of I guess
a little bit culty.
Yeah, a little bit culty, but like in the nice way.
Exactly. Well, it's heritage, right? It's been around since the 70s, so it's like it's one of those things that if you're a Rusted on Triple J listener, your parents might have listened to it. Maybe
Yeah.
your grandparents even listen to it if they're young and cool. But it's one of those things that if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. And
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
the way it's always going to be, and probably the way it should be. But yeah, there's definitely an intense love for the station, which can be great. And
I think that's the word I was trying to catch was intensity. Like,
oh yeah,
that's
the way
what
I've
I
always
think I
put it
feel-
is
yeah.
like, hey, look, we love Nova, and it's so great to work in commercial radio, but you're not finding someone with a Fox FM tattoo on their butt or like a Triple M
Yeah.
tattoo on there. You know what I mean? But like Triple J tattoos, like you see them. There's like definitely a passion for the brand, and people like just eat, sleep, and breathe it. But also, if you get into it and you like that sort of music, it's kind of the only. Well, there's obviously a lot of community radio stations, but it's kind of the only station that's going to cater to those needs. And if you love going to those festivals, it's gonna be the thing that you're gonna come back to time and time again.
And
I used
so,
to love it
yeah, go on.
because it had naughty words in it. And the song's got the rude words.
Yeah.
Language warning.
Loved a
Yeah, that
language
was-
warning.
Growing up as a
Loved
kid, I'd be like,
language
oh,
warning.
I like remember as like in primary school being like, oh, can we put Triple J on? And Mum would be like, no, they say swear words on that station. And I'd be like, yeah, but they give you a heads up. Like you've got time to escape.
You know it's coming.
Well, even
That's
though
right.
that's a bit the Triple J history. They the ABC banned them from playing "Fuck the Police." I don't know.
That's
if you-
right, I remember-
that's
they
the-
went on strike and then played like "Express Yourself" for the whole. Yeah, so it's got,
Didn't they
you know,
play like 24 hours straight, or they played
yeah,
it on repeat
yeah,
or something?
yeah. There's
that's
definitely
right.
a history there, and there would be people that probably listened at that time, still
Yeah.
listening, texting in, and say, "How do you even know how to use a phone?"
Yeah.
Like that's you're so
How'd you
old.
find the
Can you,
text
can you
line?
please play Fuck the Police? Please.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
the coolest thing though, and I suppose I've been told that before from people who've hosted shows on Triple J that it's that thing that people will, whatever you do, you'll always be associated with that, which is a cool thing because a lot of great people have been involved with it, and we're very lucky to be on it for a time. But yeah, it's certainly still like, I suppose if you're recognised, quite often it's like for Triple J would be the main reason, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's obviously, and something we can dive into maybe if you're willing and comfortable. It's obviously not going to be a place of employment that has necessarily got the most happy memories for you as individually and as a team.
Yeah.
On that, and maybe it's where you can comment on this. Like when you look back at your time at Triple J, the first probably year and a half, 2 years were pretty tough. The last year,
I would for us definitely put it at the. Hey, might have been bad for you for 2 years. But for us, I would say first year, like first 9 months.
9 months, okay, yeah.
Was probably very sort of turbulent time for us. But
I was trying to put a time stamp.
because
I know
I'm only mucking around.
I know, but
Assassinated from the corner of the couch.
I was in my head. I was like, when
Unbelievable.
did you like? Because I feel like, being part of that ingrained listenership.
Yeah.
I know exactly when. Not to say that I didn't enjoy listening to you guys because I was just learning these new voices and I'm like and I'll be honest that if I don't like something I'll hold my hand up and say I'll be honest,
which is fine.
I enjoyed listening to you, but it was a new thing for me because you were 20 or something. Like you guys were young as.
Had my
And we'd
21st
had
halfway through the first year.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which
And-
is a party that
that's
and
what
Belle
it-
came to it, so that's why we always pay her out and say she was a fan. And she's like, no, I'm not. No. Well, you came to the listener party.
but like cop that.
Yeah.
Never gonna live it down.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome.
That's
She
amazing.
gets roasted.
But like I think, there was a real turning point for me as a listener and I just mentioned it before we hit record, but the Are You OK Day. That's why I was trying to just remember that timestamp, what year it
September
was. but
2017.
17, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, 9 months in. And would that be like when you look back at your time there, do you think that was the turning point for you guys as well?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely the moment. So yeah, I suppose when we look back on the whole thing, like that was a tricky time, but like all in all, like great experience. Like it was and I think it was hugely influential and beneficial for us
Mm.
to go through that sort of hardship. But yeah, obviously, starting out, moving from, a couple of kids really from community radio in Adelaide to take up the top spot doing the breakfast show on Triple J, like a national broadcaster. And it was a big change considering, Dyson had probably done, I don't know, like 7-8 years.
Well, he'd been there for
yeah, because it was
ages,
Tom
'cause
and
it's
Alex,
Tom and
it was
Alex,
Matt and
yeah.
Alex, two
Yeah.
really successful shows. So, obviously a bit jarring to have a big change up. And yeah, we did get dogs abuse for the first few
Yeah.
months. One of the things we probably went wrong was I remember we had like our little Ben and Liam page, which we'd worked on. Would it have like I don't know, like 10,000 followers or something?
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved over, they're like, oh well, we'll change the name of like the Matt and Alex page to make it like the Ben and Liam, because it's owned by the ABC.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
you had to like sign your accounts over sort of when you joined the
Yeah, right.
organization, which happens often.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a mistake. Like, I wish if I could turn back time, that would
You could
be
roll
the
one
first.
back, yeah.
There's your problem. Because it's like, if
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
your favorite
Oh my
restaurant,
God.
and then all of a sudden there's like new chefs and the name's changed, but it's like still the same cutlery and stuff. You'd be like, well, hang on, like this is not this is not the same. So that was like a lot of their core fans. And then all of a sudden we were putting our stuff up there. So it's probably where a lot of it started. And also, yeah, we were young and trying a lot of things on, but yeah, it was pretty tricky there for a few months. But it was nice that after we spoke out about things, like the tide sort of started to change, and yeah, we had a couple of really good years there after that. Yeah.
At 21, to have the head on your shoulders to be able to say, you know what, like I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Was that a conversation you felt comfortable having, like in your day-to-day life? Do you think,
Yeah,
like, was that
yeah.
a normal conversation for you to have at that age, or do you think
Yeah.
it was kind of forced on you?
I'm probably lucky, I suppose, like in a sense, to anyone who would listen was getting the conversation like it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
well, when I say anyone who would listen, I mean realistically, like my parents and my housemates at the time.
Yeah.
I think my friends probably knew I was going through a tricky time, but they were also, all the way back in Adelaide, like living their own lives,
Yeah.
doing uni or starting their jobs or doing whatever they were doing at the time. So, and I feel like with those people, I was probably a lot more, ashamed of it. Like it's almost that, like, oh my God, like I'm not doing a good job here. Like how embarrassing, everyone knows. Like I don't want, just like play it cool. But certainly with those people that were around me all the time, I'd call my parents and talk about it. I wasn't in a relationship at the time, and I was lucky enough to have some really great housemates at the time who were a little bit older than me. But because I was living with them, they were sort of seeing it day in, day out.
yeah.
But they were hugely beneficial at the time. But yeah, and I suppose to an extent, people at work, but for the most part, I suppose you want to put on a brave face and just showtime, baby.
What about
true.
what about like growing up? Like, you mentioned your parents then, and I think you've got a sister as well.
Yes, I do. Yep.
Around the family dinner table, were the check-in conversations, did that happen, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very close family, so yeah, I suppose so. I mean, not in the sense that I think, obviously, with podcasts like this and the sort of just where we're at in the world at the moment, those sort of conversations are way more on the forefront. Like, I wouldn't say it would be, it'd be checking in on how your day is going, not necessarily like, how's your mental health today? We love you, here for you. Like, I think that's, which is so great. I think we've come a long way
100%.
In the last few years. But to be fair, I also didn't really have any hardships. Like I was pretty lucky, really. I was just doing my thing, going to school, happy-go-lucky, sort of chopping away at community radio. So that was definitely, at that time, it was, facing all of that abuse and those sorts of things online. That was obviously when I was in a trickier headspace. So that was when it was more important to be able to speak out about that stuff.
We talk about it a bit, like that, the maturity level for different people at different ages when they sort of, I guess, have their foray into, I guess, experiencing their own mental health, experiencing their own mental ill health as it is. And, we talk about ours a lot on here and, and like I think of like my 21-year-old self or my 20-year-old, 20 into 21, and just on no planet would have had the emotional literacy capacity to even recognize even just like the "Are you okay" day principle was enough to stump me back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's pretty mind blowing. Like
It is interesting, like just listening to you say that, because thinking back to when we were 21, we had so bit of background, Muff and I have been mates since we were, 14, 15.
Yeah.
Amazing tight-knit group of friends. And as a friendship group, we had a highly traumatic experience at 21 in losing one of our best mates. And, still to this day, it's one of the hardest conversations we have is talking about our mate. And, if I feel like that at 20 or 21 has equipped us with so much emotional intelligence and emotional literacy that we have never thought about before, not spoken about like this before. And just listening to you say that, I was like, you know what? Like, we did have a big learning experience at that time. Sorry to go on that trajectory, but you've experienced this, and you were getting. I know I've listened to a few conversations you've had, like people telling you to kill yourself, and your shit, you're ruining my day, go die, sort of thing.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
And at 20, 21 years of age, you don't understand the impact that can have until you experience it.
Yeah.
And for us, losing, I lost 3 mates in a year and a half in that 20, 21 years of age time. But looking back at it, if that had happened to me now, I'd be so comfortable to say I'm having a shit day. I'm so sad, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But at the time, we copped it. Like, we were grief bound for a long time and still probably hold a lot of grief to that. But we wouldn't have to the boys would be like, yeah, we're all right. We got this. So, we got this.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right, man. And and I appreciate you saying something because it's good to, it's a relevant thing to call out for sure. I think it's just like that age and all of that stuff going down was like, I look back on it. I look back on the way that I viewed mental health overall in the lead into my mental health demise and just the apathy that I had towards it and the attitude of just really not giving it any respect. Yeah. That's what I guess that's where I'm sort of coming from in terms of me talking about how I feel, how emotionally literate I was through that.
Oh, for
through
sure.
my 20s because I just had no respect for it, because I didn't think it related to me because it was the same, like you just said, Liam. It's that if you have that childhood where I've had an amazing childhood and super loving family and same sort of thing. I wouldn't say we were wasn't therapy sessions around the dinner table, but there was a lot of love. But it just all of that stuff, all of that turmoil that you end up going through at different points in your life, I just gave it no credence and really didn't respect it enough, I guess is the thing.
Yeah, no, that's a fair input. But
especially when you mentioned that, that sort of being stoic sort of stuff and it's all right.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
How you have those problems in the first place, obviously.
For sure.
But I think the conversations certainly come a long way in recent times. As you guys would experience every day. I mean, you're partly responsible for those sort of conversations, and it's certainly it's one of those things that obviously it sounds like what you guys went through is truly awful, and I sort of my own situation is my own situation, but I've been very lucky not to have to deal with anything like that. So for me personally, I suppose that's I've been able to come out the other side and see it as a growing experience. Like I'm sort of I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I'm sort of glad it happened. I know that's not the case for everyone's reason to be comfortable with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. But like that is such a good perspective to have. And I think, you know, we talk about this a bit where we're sort of like, and we do it, we're so guilty of it all the time where we sort of like qualify our own experience and weigh it up against someone else's. And it's not always justified because your experience is your experience. And like it, you know, emotional turmoil and hard times hit everybody like differently. And so, you know, there's weighing them up against each other is just sort of like it kind of just doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a real point of like something that I'm really proud of being able to getting a lot better at is like not doing that. Because I think in previous years and in early parts of my life, and I think, you know, I'm sure it's common for a lot of people, but you do weigh your own situation against someone else's and you go like, well, fuck, like, you know, they've got it on a string compared to what I'm dealing with. Or vice versa. Or you really, you know, like cheapen your experience to say like, well, I've got it nowhere near as bad as this. I should suck it up and should take the stoic route. But, you know, like you have to feel what you feel and like that's how you get better at it. And that's how like that's how you find resolution, I guess.
I just at the same time noted the juxtaposition between the conversation we're having and the T-shirt I'm wearing. In the she'll be right. And
she'll be right.
Geez, we love squash.
What message are you trying to get across?
I know. And
I'm confused.
Getting real mixed messages.
Yeah.
Squash. Do you know what? We should commission a squash "Are You Okay" shirt.
Yeah, let's chat to our boys.
Yeah,
because
we'll
we do love them and they are amazing. An amazing apparel brand and they do amazing work. But
we love the boys.
As I clicked, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have worn this T-shirt today.
But you know what? Sometimes she will be right.
You're right.
She'll be right. You got to have that attitude sometimes.
For sure. Thank you for sharing, Liam. And I think I took a little bit of pride in you sort of recognizing the conversations that we're having and the work that we're trying to do to make it easier for people to speak up. And it's something that I will take my hat off to you for doing every single time. And hopefully we get to meet and cross paths again because the work that you did, one, in sharing and just going, you know what, I've been asked the question. And we say it a lot, are you okay or how are you? It's the toughest question. It's the hardest question because it's the easiest one to lie about. But when
she'll be right, essentially.
She'll be right.
Exactly.
It's almost your knee jerk, isn't it? To be like, yeah, good. Yeah, how's your weekend? Yeah, good.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah,
good. Not great.
But like the vulnerability that you showed on that day, and then the work that you and the team put in to continue the conversation and continue saying, hey, some of this stuff is not acceptable, and it's really weighing on me as a person. And it's impacting me, it's impacting my friends, it's impacting X, Y, and Z. And the work that you continue to do to have these conversations and shine a light on the issues is something that, I really appreciate. And I wanted to touch on one of the bits of work that you guys did when you went back to Adelaide and sat in a box for 5 or 7 or 10.
Yeah,
it was 5 days.
Yeah.
A glass box in the middle of, was it Rundle Mall? And
yeah.
You guys just went to town on everything you could in terms of like you didn't shy away from conversations. People called in and you acknowledged them and listened to them and gave light and shined a light on some incredible topics and incredible themes. And I really want to recognize that because it's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's definitely if anyone's ever like what's your like favorite radio bit or like what's your I always come back to that one, Trapped, which is we did it for Lifeline. Actually, it was to raise awareness for mental health, but also funds for Lifeline, who like blew my mind, but are not like government funded. Like it's like volunteer run, which is like kind of blows my mind. When it's like crazy, people in their literal time of crises, like
dire straits,
literally. Desperate. And then there's someone who's I don't know, could have just worked a 9 to 5, or there might be a nurse just like volunteering a few hours after their shift. Like I don't know what kind of like saint you have to be to do that.
Amazing.
And have to obviously take on a lot from that as well. It's not something that you can just take a few calls, then just chuck Netflix on, forget all about it. Like I'm sure like that would sort of stick with you.
Oh, yeah.
So much weight in those conversations.
It's crazy. So what we did is really like nothing compared to what those guys are doing. But it was like it was a great way to start some important conversations and also raise money for Lifeline. I think we ended up raising $100 grand across the week, and we stunk real bad because we didn't have showers and we were literally living in that glass box, and it was honestly incredible because I suppose for that Adelaide audience, not a lot of people might not have known, some of the things that we were dealing with in those early days in Triple J. So we sort of rehashed that chat and sort of I revisited, that time with my own personal experience and got a really incredible message from my sister after that, which was also a memorable moment for me, who's had her own struggles in her life, and I asked her if she was okay with me sharing sharing that, and I remember reading that out, and that hit me for six. So I'm like, even thinking about that. But yeah, we were also joined by people from all sorts of different walks of life. People who had lost daughters to mental health, and people who work in different fields, supporting people with PTSD, former soldiers, people from every walk of life, and people just calling through and wanting to share their own experiences or pledge money and talk. And across the week, because we were literally doing the show, and then because we were in the box there, we were sort of up until I said I like those early weeknights. We were up until like 11:30. I suppose people would like go out to dinner or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, we'll go see the boys." Like, if it's Rundle Mall's like it's as busy as it gets for Adelaide. So there's obviously a lot of people also, wondering, what's going on. So we had these like little whiteboards of people were asking what we were doing, and we were just having conversations with people all day, every day, and it was draining but so rewarding as well, especially because there was like people that probably didn't even like really know the show or like whatever, or didn't know us, but they were sharing their stories and on the whiteboard, and that we had some really incredible moments. And I mean, and doesn't discriminate as well. There was people who were like clearly sleeping rough, and they were like, we literally like saw them sleeping, and they were sharing their sort of struggles. And then there was, I remember this like really clean cut gentleman. He looked like a Wall Street banker, a really nice suit, and he wrote this message and literally was like bawling his eyes out, and then sort of left the message and like walked off. And it goes to show like people from all walks of life, have these sort of issues in their life, or know people that have faced their challenges and struggles, and it was a really heartwarming experience and something that we remember very fondly. And I still remember that shower on the Friday. It was very nice. And sleep, because I reckon I slept like 2 hours that last night, because it was just that whole the pressure of it was a lot, and also like the excitement of getting out the next day. But that one was cool. That one was really cool.
That's amazing.
Did you maybe appreciate the impact that segment was going to have before, or did it?
Not really. No, it definitely. It had more of an impact than we thought. Of course, the whole point was to raise money and start conversations. But by about the second day, we're like, we've obviously really struck a sort of tone here, especially because it's that thing. It's like, I mean, obviously, you don't have to look very hard for people who are living with this sort of stuff all the time.
Exactly.
And or understand that the conversations are important, or that it needs airtime. So it's obviously it's the human experience, right? So it's going to affect everyone. And it was just heartwarming to see people like complete strangers like opening up and.
Crazy.
I suppose
like the trust.
Well, I suppose you show vulnerability, and it's nice when you sort of get that in return.
100%.
Rather, you'd feel a bit like, okay, if you were opening up and was, but quite often that's obviously the case, isn't it? Like if you're, no one. I suppose there's such that fear of being open and honest and being vulnerable, but like, I find with my personal experience, it's always been met with love, and I've got a really great mates group who are we have a fair crack when we're together, and they're footy boys, and they're your quintessential sort of young dudes, but there's definitely a real understanding there and respect for everyone's situation in mental health, and a lot of checking in on each other. And
that's awesome.
I know not everyone's in that situation, but very lucky to sort of to have that sort of group of mates.
Yeah,
that's huge, isn't it? Because that's the even statistically, like that's the underrepresented portion of society that really is so heavily affected by mental ill health, but is also typically doing the least about it as well. So, and that's, and we've been so reassured and so happy in, I guess, like the growth that our broader sort of circle has had as well. And even just like getting, it's so nice, like getting little pieces of feedback and having some impact on whatever scale it is, it's just like, it's so reassuring and comforting. But to get those ones that are really close to home, like to get like, one of the boys like call through or say something and, just like give a shout out, and for them to have had a conversation that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And if we could have been like the catalyst for that, like that is just so unbelievably fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to, and hey, if you don't have a group like that, then maybe you sort of have to be the first one to sort of get it going, get the conversation going, and it's been nice. I think whenever mates have struggled, we've all sort of just, I don't live in Adelaide anymore with my big group of mates, but just talk to them like every week, every day, a few of them. But it's been nice whenever anyone's like clearly having not a great time, like we've just sort of rallied around, just gone out for dinner or whatever, or
perfect.
Tried to keep things a little bit more chill on the weekend and do different things rather than going to the pub if that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So really lucky to have that.
That's unreal. That's so good. Yeah, I mean, it is a thing that I guess to be grateful for, because you're right, like not everybody has that, and like we are so fortunate to have the people around us supporting us in our situation, and obviously in yours as well. Along those lines, what are some of where else do you find that support? Where else do you sort of, I guess, balance the scale?
Oh, 100%. My beautiful fiance Sarah, she's definitely my rock, and we're getting married at the end of the year, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
But,
Nice.
we
love a wedding.
But
love a wedding, exactly.
Invites.
I know a good walk-in guitarist.
Yeah.
Done a few of those, haven't I? Murph?
No. Sorry, we're coming back to this, but
okay. Muff's the guy.
I thought I was going to cry, and I feel bad because I told Amy, I was like, Amy organised Muff to surprise, and he played this beautiful ballad while she walked down the aisle. My wife, Amy, walked down the aisle, and that got me. Seeing him playing guitar was the
made me cry.
Exactly.
He was sitting in the front row, and I was like, "Why is he sitting there like this?" Strange. Anyway, that guitar kind of looks like Muff's. That's funny. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then,
nice.
and Amy's like, "Oh, you're so cute. You're crying." I was like, "Yeah."
Crying for the boys.
It's just such a beautiful.
Was it an original or was it?
No. It was just a lovely instrumental rendition of that Elvis song. Can't help falling in love. Yeah, exactly. No vocals. I didn't want to ruin the day. But,
that might have ruined it.
Yeah, exactly. But it was
Tears
so sneaky.
turned to laughter quickly.
I started singing.
I would have been late. If I did Elvis, I would have been late Elvis. Not like awesome. Yeah, not awesome young Elvis.
Easy to get. No, but sorry. So
yeah, Sarah.
Yeah,
and that incredible. That's also, I'm like, I feel like I'm really on top of things at the moment. Big reason why. Even moving to Melbourne, new show and the nature of our businesses. It's you sort of obviously live and die by ratings and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and there's pressures that come with the gig, but it's honestly been a really cruisy year. It's been an excellent year. But I was trying to like work out like, why is that? And I suppose it's because I've really like just like sucked my support crew and my real life and just like plopped it in Melbourne. Producers around us, Ben, myself, and Belle, and Sarah, all our respective partners, our dog. So my day to day still rolls out very similar. Really, it's just in a different spot now. It's just a bit colder here, and people care about the footy more.
Way more. Well, I mean,
but that's it's whether there's good days or bad days, it's so nice to be able to come home and and speak with Sarah. And I suppose that's the other thing. When I started Triple J, we weren't together we were together from that second year onwards. So we got together in like end of 17, start of 18. So that's all throughout those years. It's helped having that person. A lot of the time when I was having my struggles, I was sort of finishing work, coming home. My housemates would work until like they would get home at like normal hours, I suppose. Around I don't know, like 6, 7. But if I'm home from like 1 p.m. and I didn't really have that, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to go for a walk. I would just be like, I'm just going to sit home and think about
it's pretty
just
atypical.
everything happening.
Tick, tick, tick.
Literally, I sometimes think, I'm like, man, I didn't even play PlayStation. Like I had my PlayStation there and like why don't I just like, I don't know. I don't even know what I did.
Yeah.
Needed a thing.
I just sort of like, bummed around. I don't know.
But I think
that's easy to do though. Like,
when you're struggling. Like when you're at that point where a lot is going against you, all you want to do is nothing. And you look back at it retrospectively, you're like, fuck,
what was I doing?
I went for a walk, I would have been, get a bit of dopamine, I would have been feeling better. But at the time, it is really hard to
get
that
motivation.
The motivation. Maybe that's something like now, like looking back, you're thinking, I had these opportunities that I didn't take. What's in your toolbox now? If you get home and let's say Sarah's not at home and you've had a shit day or you're really struggling with something, it's mental health or physical health or any part of well-being, what's in your toolbox?
It's so simple, but dog walk, always great. I walk the dog for, if I can, like an hour a day is sort of, I just sort of find the time for it. There's a loop that I do, which is great for him, also great for me. And, on that walk, I'll call mates back home, parents maybe, do work calls if I need to do them, or just listen to a podcast, something that I enjoy.
Men of Words.
Men of Words, that's on the list. That's on the list now.
Shout out, Libba.
I love the, you guys heard the Peter Crouch podcast?
I've seen snippets and he is
I love
a
it.
genius. I mean,
he's
it
great.
makes sense being
It's
such
that
a big
and
fan.
the Better Words podcast, and then my own podcast. Just get the listens up. Just I don't even really listen to it. I just have my headphones in my pocket.
Put it on
and just
repeat.
Just get the plays up.
Fast forward to 30
up.
seconds to go. Listen
Get
to
a
the last
bonus.
30. Yeah. We don't do that.
I started playing the Men of Words on repeat on Mum's iPod. She doesn't know how to turn it off. So just racking those listens up, baby.
Perfect crime.
I've just been sneaking in, breaking into people's houses and just going, okay,
Subscribing.
Google,
Yeah.
play Men of Words podcast.
Okay,
I thought I saw you at the Apple Genius Bar yesterday, putting Men of Words podcast
Subscribing
onto
onto every Apple device.
every Apple device in the room.
No one's going to know.
The victimless crime.
Yeah, but that's definitely one. Also,
That's awesome.
I suppose like going to the gym. I literally like. I wouldn't say like I like fitness or going to the gym, especially not like lifting like weights and that sort of thing. But this year, naturally, I've sort of been doing it just to get a bit fitter and healthier. And I sort of knew from last year. Last year was probably the first year that I was like, I think I'm working my life out a little bit more, in the sense that I'm like, you actually do need to do something
These things
for fitness.
work when
just
you,
because I was like, I actually feel like way better. Like I sleep better, I eat better, and just I started. This is a bit of an exclusive. So this is an exclusive. So this never. So yeah, Murph. I don't know if you remember back in the Triple J days. Ben and I had a boxing fight because Ben was boxing at the time.
Yep. I do remember this.
Yeah. So, and I paid him out because he had like a fight with like a 15-year-old.
Yeah,
like
that's
But
right.
it was like boxing is like whatever weight class. It's just the weight class. And
Yeah.
if you've had a So, and then it was this whole thing of like, oh, like I'll fight Ben and literally we knew what we were doing. Like we were always gonna do it, but you know, people would call up and be like, "Oh, when are you gonna fight?"
When are you
Nah,
gonna
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And we sort of let that go for like a month, and then we put this post up of me like a promo shot, like shirtless, like sort of, like water sprayed on me, and we're like, if this gets 30,000 likes, like we'll get in the ring together. And literally in like 3 hours, I got 50,000 likes. There was that, as I mean, like that Triple J, like rusted on.
shit.
Yeah.
And so like awesome. So we got in the ring and he absolutely demolished me, like just like pulled me apart. Like we actually, so I think we put up like a minute and we filmed it probably like we did say 4 rounds. So I was like absolutely gassed, and then we just cut up the best sort of.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad, who used to be like a boxer, and he was like, you gotta train secretly, and you gotta get ready, and you take him for another fight. So last year, so this has never been talked about. Last year, I was boxing training 4 times a week, and I hadn't told Ben, but this Adelaide Fight Club, shout out to Ollie Savage, and
Big fight.
yeah, literally, and
Oh my
so
God.
we ended up. Maybe we'll put it up as a podcast one day, but so I did this whole thing, this whole year. Just say like Jan to September, and then this sort of job came up. That's how it works in radio. It comes on sort of abruptly sometimes. Like, hey, there's this opportunity, like, and we're never gonna not take a better opportunity, especially like within our own company. Like and I suppose like that was part of the move of moving back to Adelaide. Was like, okay, well, let's learn how to do commercial radio, which is a different beast to public radio and community radio, and the intention was to always get into one of the bigger markets someday. So it's kind of cool. We were given the opportunity to do that, but that all happened, and we sort of wanted to get the jump on the other breakfast shows here. So then we started in December, which means we were finishing it at like the end of October, so then we could have a month to move. Ben had a honeymoon all planned, so we had to cut a few weeks off and move it all in there. We all of a sudden had to like, find houses in Melbourne and move our whole lives over before the year had finished. So we just recorded the break, and like, it's a bit of radio magic. Sometimes you like, pre-record me telling him, hey, I've been training all year, we're going to do this fight. And he was like really into it. And then we would go, and then we could, so then at least he would know. You can't actually just surprise someone and be like, I'm fighting you today. But then at least you could have a bit of a week to be like, okay, this is the thing we're going to do. And everyone's okay with we're punching each other. Like, I'd be kind of psycho. Like, I'm just going to jump out and start hitting him.
Gloves.
But then we played this game on Adelaide Oval for it was like before Crows or Port game. We wanted to bring the slowdown back, which is like, it's a thing, and it's like kind of like the EJ Witten's game of Adelaide. Slowdowns. It was like old Port and Crows players, and they'd have like Guy Sebastian or whatever. Like so we'll bring back the slowdown, and we couldn't get Guy Sebastian, so we got his brother, not the one who won The Voice, the other one who's an accountant, and we did that, and Ben did his knee in, and he like actually genuinely like did his knee, like he was limping around, and then obviously like he had his like honeymoon, which he wanted to be sweet for, and he was like, I can't do it because of the knee, and then like it never happened.
Right.
I essentially did all that training for nothing. And it still hasn't happened. And if I don't know, if you listen to this podcast and you listen to our podcast or whatever in the show, you would have never have heard that. Like that's not. So I was literally like, dude, the hustle for like 4 days a week to be like, I'm gonna pound this guy. Like I'm
gonna punch my friend.
Well,
and then I never got to do it. And I'm like, come on. But the good thing that came from that is I felt way more on top of things last year than I ever have been.
Yeah.
And so moving to Melbourne, I knew like quickly, hey, I've got to find something. And I wanted to find boxing again, because boxing is like, it's like so brutal and so hard, but I loved it. And hey, he maybe still would have beaten me after a year of training, but it was more for like the fitness element. So this year, I was like, okay, that's kind of important for me now. Like, even though I have never felt extremely fit, I'm like, I suppose I've I better do something because I know I'm better around
Yeah.
everything else. So
100%.
yeah, I wish you could be just as happy and functional by just drinking beers and chilling out. But
Eating shit.
unfortunately, not the case.
No,
So
exactly.
Wait till after the wedding, and then you'll notice that you
Yes.
can do that. Just a little
well,
bit.
yes, I'm counting
I
down the
cancelled
days.
all my gym. I'd cancelled my
You
gym
did?
membership.
Awesome.
Cancelled my clean eating subscription. Settled
See you
right
later,
into
HelloFresh.
married life.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So yeah, exercise is the big
I think,
toolbox,
yeah.
and combining the the communication.
Well, yeah,
with mates
walking's like
and-
I suppose it's like also bonus exercise, but it's
Yeah.
also just good to just like power down. Like that's I
Yeah.
suppose when I was working in Sydney, I used to walk home from work. I'd cab in and then I'd walk home, and that was like an hour, and then
Oh, nice.
then I just in Adelaide I was just sort of like I'd like bus at home or or just and then but I was like pretty close to home, so I was after a while I was like maybe I've missed that like hour walk.
Yeah.
So it's good doing that with the dog and just having some time to actually zonk out a little bit. Like I think it's better doing that and listening to a podcast than sitting on the couch, I suppose, for an hour.
Yeah.
I like sitting on the couch at night, like when Sarah's home and I have some dinner and watch a show. But like, by nature of my job, there's days sometimes where I'm just home at like 2 p.m. or whatever, and if I'm home for like 3 or 4 hours, it's like not a great use of anyone's time. If I'm just like, maybe I'll just have 7 hours on the couch. Like, how exciting!
But it's kind of like reassuring that it's the simple things that can be so beneficial. Simple in like theory. Like,
well, that's
maybe
it. It's
not,
not
as
like
simple in
it's like,
practice
oh,
all
you
the
feel
time,
sad,
but
buddy,
yeah.
go for a walk. Everything, all your magic,
Yeah.
magically
Yeah,
fix everything.
yeah.
But I suppose it's more having that stuff in place all the time to just
Yeah.
you are going to be all round, healthier body, healthier mind.
Yeah,
sort of
for
thing.
sure.
But
Yeah,
who
get
knows?
it-
Maybe in a year it won't work, and I'll be like butthole sunning or something like that. Like I'll have to find like new. Do they still do that? Do you remember that? Like,
Yeah,
I remember that.
I remember.
What do you mean?
Sunny's
Do they? Do we?
yeah, we. Yeah, oh yeah, I remember that.
what?
Yeah. No one does that anymore. That's it.
Yeah.
My Amy's like massive
hang
on
on.
Hey, where's this
mushroom.
going?
Yeah, wait.
Mushroom sunning.
Mushroom
that?
sunny.
Just like linking, no butthole sunning, but mushroom. Putting your mushrooms before you cook them in the sun.
Charge them up.
Yeah.
Charge crystals. Charge
So maybe it's a bit
mushrooms.
easier than getting the anus up there. just use mushrooms.
It's not,
Put
it's
your
not a
back
high
out.
sun during winter. It's a weird angle.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't work, yeah.
You need a lot of open
It's
space.
a lot of sad. There's There's
Sunny.
one day where the park's really busy in Melbourne. The one good day of the year when the UV's high and like the weather's good.
a lot of
like-
legs, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of legs in the air.
One thing we love to ask is a little bit of a challenge. This is something that, and we'll recognise the Resilience Project. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, Hugh Van Cuylenberg,
Yeah.
Martin Heppel.
I listen to that pod as well.
It's a ripping
Worth
pod,
it.
those guys.
Nah, it's a banger.
And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Martin Heppel, who is one of the presenters for the school programs alongside Hugh Van Cuylenberg.
Yeah. Not familiar.
Absolute legend. Like, changed my life in terms of like some perspectives on things. And he came to my school literally 1 or 2 days after we had our very first brainstorm
that's
about
it.
this concept of this podcast. And he said this thing where he's like, as men, we traditionally don't say I love you to our friends unless we're we've had 10 beers at the pub and throw your arms around them. And I'm interested because I feel like this might be something that you're comfortable in doing, but we'd love to challenge our guests for a bit of an I love you challenge.
Yeah.
And hearing you speak about your friendship group, it's probably something that possibly exists in your realm, but I would love to, and we would love to throw the challenge to you if you have your phone on you and are willing / comfortable, and if not willing with the phone to down the barrel, give a mate a call and give them a bit of love, why you love them, what you're thankful for, what you're grateful for them and their friendship to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd like to do it to Ben, but I don't know if I should call him if I don't know if he's asleep with the baby or not. But I'm definitely keen to give him a down the barrel one because what I will say is, and hopefully he comes on this pod as well. But he and when I talk about that friendship group, I'm like, really open and definitely a different relationship with Ben and I in the sense that even recently we had it was a real 10 beers at the pub type situation. Ben doesn't like really sort of drink that much, but we had this awesome afternoon together.
Yeah.
And it was one of those real like I love you man moments after
So
about
nice.
8 to 10 beers. But I was literally like, what has gotten into this guy? Like, I don't know. Like, we don't do that a lot. But
Yeah.
I was like, is it he's becoming a dad? Is it fatherhood? Is that is that? But I was like, what?
The halo
This
of
one- and
fatherhood is
honestly, it was really
descending.
nice. It was really
That's great.
if anything, like emotional for me. I was like, this is so nice because he's like, and he is a softie inside, but he does have definitely that hard exterior, like sort of like country guy. Like that's sort of his deal. But I'm gonna down the barrel him and say, Ben, I love you, man, and thank you so much for everything you've done for me over the years, and for everything you're doing at the moment at home, and still coming to work and working just like you usually do, even though you've got crying baby at home. But I know you're going to be such a great dad, man, and you're such a great husband to your wife and a great mate to me. And I know we don't always have these conversations, and we don't always tell each other how proud of each other we are and how much we appreciate each other. But man, I love you from the bottom of my heart.
Gets me every time. It's my
Man.
favorite part of every conversation we have is seeing the. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks,
for.
man.
Thank
It's
you for
funny.
doing
There's
that.
definitely mates that I'm like I could call, and they would just couple on the chin. If I call Ben, he'd be like, "Why? I've got a baby here. Like, what are you doing?" But I'm like, I will tell him to listen to this podcast, and I feel like that was the harder one to do because which was such a funny thing because I'm like, oh, hey, you had that conversation on Are You Okay Day, and like, you lived in that box together, but I also get that it's, it is trickier for people as well. You know what I mean? Like just by nature of just like we're different in the sense that I'm a very extroverted person. Naturally, I'm probably going to be, talking out more. He's a very introverted kind of guy. And even when we were going through those tricky times, I suppose we had those conversations a bit, but he was very like the t-shirt, like she'll be right. Like very like, and that's nothing against him.
No, of course not.
And I don't know, but I suppose he's also with his wife now. He was in a relationship with her from the start of Triple J. So, maybe he was going home and having those sorts of conversations. But I suppose we were definitely, even though we weren't outwardly talking about it all the time, it was helpful in the sense that he was very stoic in that sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, it'll be fine and don't worry about it. And like, that was also probably his way of being there for me, but it was also helpful because he was going through the exact same thing.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah.
Because that, like, it's hard to like frame exactly what that is, but it's kind of like the difference between minimizing someone's experience, like the she'll be right could be like, no, you're just minimizing someone's experience, being like you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
But conversely, it's like, that's support. Like that's really strong
exactly.
support, and like that comes from a place of like wanting you to be okay, and not necessarily like trying to solve a problem. And like we've spoken about how trying to fix problems can be the biggest fucking problem out of all of it.
Yeah.
But like, and how often do we say that being the person to be there to listen without a solution is almost invaluable?
It's also, people are, everyone's different. Everyone processes things differently. And I've sort of, as I was saying, at the extrovert introvert thing, I'm like, he's very headstrong guy. I'm probably more of a heart strong guy, I would say. And that's when challenges arise, both of those things present themselves in different ways, I suppose.
100%.
But
And that's balance as well. Like
that's
between
it.
the
And,
two
like,
of you, that's really nice.
by nature of it, it's like you're not going to be able to have these sort of chats with everyone as much as you'd like to. But I suppose if you do to the best of your ability and you let people know that you're there, you know what I mean? Like even for example, like say my dad. Like my dad is like both my parents, the most supportive, beautiful people ever. Like my dad, like he texts me on like ratings day like literally like, before my bosses do, like, you know, hey, nice cume increase and here and, you know,
What a
a little
champ.
down on 18 to
Love it.
25s and like TSL, or, you know, he's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
so invested. And
That's amazing.
I don't know what popped into my head the other day, but we were texting and I texted him something. He's like, I forgot about that. But I was like, so nice that like I can remember back in my community radio days, like I was like doing breakfast radio before I could drive to work, I suppose. So like my dad would just like drive me to the nearest bus stop, and then I would like bus for half an hour into the city, like in the morning. But he'd literally like wake up at the same time as me, even though he had to go to the city later for work, and he'd like make me breakfast, like you know, cook sausages and that. So and like sometimes I couldn't. Yeah, I remember I couldn't like finish it all, and I would like. Literally, like he'd give me like the sausage in like paper towel, and I'd just be like munging it on the O-Bahn. Yeah. We've got the O-Bahn, in Adelaide, which is like a bus train, but and he's of course always, you know, lucky to, you know, say, you know, he tells me he loves me and he's proud of me, but I also like not see my dad cry like ever. And but that's, you know, I still know he's always there for me and very supportive, and then I also know that, you know, I'm very lucky to have the relationship I do with him, because he didn't necessarily have that with his dad. Then lost him quite young. So for a lot of it, he's probably like working out this sort of stuff for the first time.
Sure.
Definitely given me the best infrastructure I can to hopefully have a, you know, son or a daughter someday to be there for them. But yeah, I suppose the point I was trying to get across is like people have different ways of showing you that they're there for you and that they love you. They might not just be capable of doing a Men of Words podcast, say, or like being completely comfortable with just like letting it all hang. But I suppose when you understand that as well and know that people process things differently, that's okay, and you just got to sort of understand the reasoning behind that, I suppose.
That's it. And recognize like the support in whatever fashion it comes in, and be grateful for it. And I think, that's, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, that generational gap is such a clear one. Like, you know, I guess so many people, and I guess, you know, or myself, I can, you know, included, is that like, navigating that relationship with your old man is kind of like, you know, it's a funny thing to think like, wow, I can talk about every single thing in my life a lot easier with Murph than I can with my dad.
Yeah,
and it's not to say that it's not
blow
supported.
me away, though,
Exactly.
Yeah. But the good thing is that like hopefully that will, you know, the sort of as the generations go by, that sort of stuff will you know, become a thing of the past, almost a prehistoric way of looking at things.
100%.
A bit of a generational shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it.
Well, with legends pushing the conversation forward, living in boxes, doing the thing, spreading awareness.
That's right, guys. I lived in a box.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my God. Amazing.
Might be a nice little way to round out Father's Day. By the time this comes out, Father's Day will have been and gone. So celebrating all the fantastic fathers and father figures in my world. Happy Father's Day to you, Muff. And
thank you.
To my dad, Shane, and to Ben.
And to Tom. My
Tom.
dad.
And to
Tom.
Tom,
Ben's
your
also
dad,
my daddy.
and to old Tom.
And I got an old Tom too.
You got
I
an
got
old
a Tom
Tom?
too. Yeah, shout out old Tom.
What does he look like? Hang on.
Yeah, that's it. If I still had the hair going, we're kind of like.
He was in Adelaide. I've never had that conversation with my dad because he was in Adelaide making breakfast for me before I got on the bus.
He did very
Did a
early
stint in
every
South
night.
Australia for a little while. Curious.
Look out.
That's awesome. Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I don't know if you can tell by this conversation, but you've really got my number. I've not said a word this whole chat. I'm just laughing my ass off. So thank you. That's been good. I've enjoyed
Then
it.
it has been a pleasure. I wasn't even making it up. No, that's good. No, it's you know, it's been something, and you've been someone on my like wish list of being able to sit down and have a chat with for a long time, mate. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And you mentioned the Matildas earlier, and we rode that wave, and it did. I think we were scheduled in a few weeks ago, but they won.
Oh,
and then you got to,
sorry about that. How rude of me.
No, but
Not
I think
sorry
I,
at
like,
all.
Not
I
sorry
remember
at all.
coming to say, Brody, producer at work, who helped us arrange this. I was like, I think you got to tell the dudes, man, that like if they win against France, like I'm simply not going on the Wednesday.
Yeah. No,
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
And that was awesome. But
Yeah, I would have been on Optus Sport the whole time, being like, yeah,
good.
Really
Yeah.
important, really important.
Yeah.
How many sets? You'll get in.
But yeah, I'm glad we got to circle back to it, mate. And
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure to sit down and chat with you. And yeah, thank you for coming on board.
Unreal. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you having me.
It's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for another beautiful conversation. Thank you for a beautiful week. You've been, well, I feel like we've been doing a good job supporting each other this week. It's been a really, really nice week so far.
And I want to apologise for, in case I haven't been the best version of myself at work, because as you've probably seen, it's been a pretty stressful little period. And I'm, like I said at the start, very grateful for your help and support and guidance.
We'll leave that on the cutting room floor, because no need for apology whatsoever, mate. You are doing the work of a small army. So I'm beyond impressed. It's been really nice, like watching how you go about your business. It's pretty impressive stuff. I love you, mate. Thank you again. Big conversation, big shout out to everybody listening. So grateful for everybody's support. Please, hope you've enjoyed our conversation. This is the Men of Words podcast, where the little conversations can make the biggest differences. Good morning.
Awesome.
This is the Men of Words podcast, where the little conversations can make the biggest differences.